Part 2. Nigeria under a course. Although the co-conspirators of the January 1966 coup were a varied cast, representing various tribes, the leaders were primarily Igbos, including these three: Major Patrick Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeogwu, Major Christian Anuforo, and Captain Emmanuel Nwobosi. These three young men had been schoolmates at St. John's College, an all-boys secondary school in Kaduna, now called Rimi College. My dad, Basil Nana Ukebu, had recently graduated from St. Patrick's College, Calabar, with a London matriculation, which exempted him from entrance exams into the University of London. After a short stint at the Colonial District Office in Kano, where he first became friends with his workmate, Maitama Sule, he got an appointment at St. John's College, Kaduna, to teach physics, chemistry, and Latin. In the group photograph of students at St. John's College, which is shown in General Olusegun Obasanjo's biographical book, Nzeogwu, my father can be seen sitting on the front row, wearing a suit, beside another African teacher, Mr. Idigwe, who was being bid farewell, while my father was being welcomed. My father said these three coup plotters were his boys, although he was barely 5 years older than they were. But he became friends with Nzeogwu and with Anuforo, who came from my mother's hometown, Obibi Ezena, the neighboring town to my father's Imerianwe. My dad had no prior knowledge of the coup, but after the Civil War, Alhaji Maitama Sule insisted that he knew. Indeed, after the Daily Times story on quote-unquote the uproar in Parliament appeared on January 13, 1966, a worried Major Emmanuel Ifajuna asked Major Anuforo during their last pre-coup meeting if he or Nzeogwu had disclosed the coup plot to their former teacher, to which Anuforo had replied, "No, Basil is like that." Interestingly, my dad had led a rebellion because of an injustice done to his classmate in his last year at St. Patrick's College. This led to his expulsion from the school, but he was allowed back to take his London matric examinations from outside. This, coincidentally, was the same way Nzeogwu rebelled during his final year at St. John's College, Kaduna. He was expelled, refused to apologize, and had to take his final Cambridge exams from outside. No notable Igbo politician knew ahead that some young Igbo army officers were plotting a coup d'etat slated for January 1966. Individually and collectively, they opposed the coup. These politicians and the people they represented were doing more than pretty well. Indeed, they were doing great with the setup in Nigeria. Their region, eastern Nigeria, was peaceful, quiet, not experiencing any mass political violence or social upheaval, as was occurring in western Nigeria. Besides, because of the coup, they were losing their coveted political jobs, all due to these messianic, politically naive, callow, inexperienced young military officers. As I've said, my dad had no prior knowledge of the coup, but he soon knew a whole lot more. Only a few days after he returned to the east from Lagos, as Parliament had been shut down, Major Christian Anuforo turned up in our home in the Ore Grammar School Imerianwe School compound, the school founded by my father in 1958, a year before he won his first election to Parliament at age 30. I was the first person Major Anuforo met after he walked into the mansion through the unlocked front door. Later, shocked to see him, my dad's first words to him were, quote-unquote, "Chris, don't tell me you are involved." Anuforo would spend several weeks in hiding there, until eventually my dad's driver drove him and my dad to Enugu for Anuforo to surrender to Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, the military governor of the eastern region. The fact is that for centuries, Igbos have fought against injustice done to them and to others, wherever they have found themselves, on the continent of Africa and as slaves in the Americas. It is in their blood, it is in their genes. But in trying to save the lives of thieves and Yorubas, the young Igbo army officers made innocent Igbos pay a terrible price. During the Akanta coup of July 1966,
The northern soldiers wiped out scores of Igbo army officers who were in those days the majority of officers in the Nigerian army.
Northern politicians, led by coup leader Major Murtala Muhammad's uncle Alhaji Ino Awada, a former key minister, allied with the northern soldiers to conspire and eventually massacre over 30,000 innocent Igbo civilians. At the Aburi, Ghana peace meeting held in January 1967, Lieutenant Colonel Ojukwu requested of Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, the new head of state after the murder of Major General Johnson T. Aguiyi-Ironsi, federal funds to resettle the hundreds of thousands of Igbo refugees who had escaped with their lives from the north. Gowon denied the request, saying that the only money available in the federal treasury was foreign donations meant for the construction of the second mainland bridge, today called Eko Bridge, in Lagos. If Gowon had given that money to Ojukwu, it is very unlikely that Ojukwu would have built up distrust for Gowon and started working to break away from Nigeria. I'm sure Gowon will regret this for as long as he lives. Think about this ungodly trade-off. Eko Bridge for the millions of lives lost from 1967 to 1970. I guess he will answer to God. Gowon may have been a weak leader at the beginning of his rule in August 1966. A possible reason he failed to stop the massacre of 30,000 Igbos residing in the north. However, to his credit, he was man enough to apologize before the Human Rights Violations Investigations Commission, also known as the Justice Oputa Panel, the South African-type Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 1991, stating that he deeply regretted the atrocities that happened under his watch, including the massacre of an estimated 700 Igbos at Asaba, in today's Delta State, in August 1967. But not so General Ibrahim Haruna, who it is said boldly asserted, quote, as the commanding officer and leader of the troops that massacred 500 men in Asaba, I have no apology for those massacres in Asaba or Wari, and Ameke Item. I acted as a soldier maintaining the peace and unity of Nigeria. If General Yakubu Gowon apologized, he did it in his own capacity. As for me, I have no apology, unquote. However, Haruna was most likely not telling the truth. Perhaps he was covering up, trying to deflect the blame from the Nigerian army officers who were actually responsible for the massacres. And these massacres did not occur in only one day. The army division in that sector, the 2nd Division, was commanded by then Lieutenant Colonel Murtala Muhammad, who was headquartered in Benin. The 4th commander was Major Ibrahim Taiwo. Haruna was not appointed commander of the 2nd Division, replacing Murtala Muhammad until 1968, after the disaster in Abagana, where thousands of federal troops were killed, and Murtala Muhammad went on a war to Kano in the aftermath. It was Ibrahim Taiwo who must have given the order for Nigerian soldiers to ransack the houses in Igbo communities all the way from Abo to Asaba, and to slaughter the people in between. The height of the orgy of killings took place in Asaba. Despite the killings that had taken place in previous days, the people in Asaba assembled from all over town to welcome the Nigerian federal soldiers, waving white flags and chanting, quote-unquote, "One Nigeria," in short order. The males were lured away to a field, and there Nigerian federal soldiers revealed their machine guns and mowed down an estimated 700 people, men and boys, as young as 12. Books by Nigerian and European authors have documented this massacre of over 1,000 people in Asaba and adjoining towns. Here's one account of what happened to the females. Quote, federal troops occupied Asaba for months, during which time most of the town was destroyed. Many women and girls were raped or forcibly, quote-unquote, married. This Asaba atrocity on girls and women seems uncannily like Boko Haram's outrage in Chibok decades later. For this particular massacre in Asaba, Nemesis acted fast enough. In the coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Bukar S. Dimka on Friday, the 13th of February 1976, only 2 senior army officers were killed: Major General Murtala Mohammed and Kwara State Military Governor Colonel Ibrahim Taiwo. The irony in all of this is that the day Lieutenant William Seri assassinated Murtala Mohammed, I cried. Because like many Nigerians who hadn't known about Asaba, I had come to love the man. He became a hero. It was perhaps okay for people like General Haruna that a mercenary pilot from Czechoslovakia flying either a Russian-supplied Ilyushin jet bomber or a MiG-17 jet fighter in February 1969 dropped a bomb or fired rockets at a market in Umuhiago town, the present-day location of the Imo airport in Owerri, blowing to pieces an estimated 500 Igbo civilians who had crowded the market to buy and sell foodstuffs in the midst of war. There were other such atrocities carried out from the air by the mercenary Czech and Egyptian pilots. Nigeria had no war pilots of her own. There was another air raid at Ochuacha Market in September 1968, where an estimated 500 Igbo civilians lost their lives. And yet, another massacre at Uzuaba Market in February 1969, where an estimated 250 innocent Igbo civilians perished in a bombing raid. It is perhaps okay with them also that Nigerian soldiers raped and defiled thousands of Igbo girls and wives during the Civil War, holding many of them as sex slaves for months on end. Ironically, this is the exact same evil Boko Haram has been doing in the north in the last few years. I am not happy that Igbo youths aggrieved by the long-standing marginalization of Igbos in Nigeria have joined the organizations MASOB and IPOB, trying to resurrect Biafra from the dead, chasing the shadow, the will-o'-the-wisp, the nebulous concept of Biafra. They will be better served gathering up all the evidence of the horrendous crimes against humanity committed by the northern civilian leaders and their mobs, and the northern soldiers, and bringing the matter to the United Nations and to the world. This message led off with, among other subjects, my father's call for the toppling of Tafawa Balewa's government, a mere 3 days before the January 1966 coup d'etat. I wish to state here that over time I have similarly sounded timely warnings and given strategic advice to a number of national governments, both in the Western world and also in Nigeria. As a child in March 1969, a military prodigy, I planned a complete military operation for the Biafran Organization of Freedom Fighters, BOF, the Biafran guerrilla organization. I called it, quote-unquote, Operation Abracadabra, meaning magic, and designed it to overwhelm the Nigerian Federal Army in a single night, about the month of September 1969.
That operation, renamed
quote-unquote Special Christmas Ops by BOF, was only begun in early December 1969 when it was too late. Barely past a teenager 7 years later in 1975, while an undergraduate in economics at the University of Lagos, I wrote an article which I sent to the Daily Star, the East Central States government-run newspaper in Enugu, which replaced the Ukpabi Aseka government's Renaissance newspaper. In the article, I advised that the new Murtala Mohammed government should cancel the idea of creating more states and leave the number at the 12 that General Gowon had created in 1967. I said the new states would be too small, lack resources, and be unable to take advantage of economies of scale in developing infrastructure projects. Nigerians now know better. A few months afterwards, at the beginning of February 1976, in my final year at the university, I sent in an article to the state-owned National Daily, the then Marina-based Daily Times in Lagos. It was less than 2 weeks before the coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka. Once the soldiers who had taken over the building on Kakawa Street, Marina, left, upon realizing that their coup had collapsed, on that fateful afternoon of Friday, February 13, 1976, the Daily Times said it was fished out my article, and it appeared the next day, Saturday, February 14, 1976, on the center spread. It was entitled, quote, Political instability, a hindrance to economic progress. I had actually entitled my paper, The Economic Consequences of Political Instability. Let me again state it here loud and clear. Everyone in this country has to accept the fact that Nigeria is cursed, and Nigerians should do something about it. But first, I will now give you an example of a blessed country, the United States of America, and show you what a blessed country looks like. I will continue this message in part 3. Please continue to watch and listen. Thank you.